Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Shout out Ignarius. I think this the perfect
What's
one
up,
to step back
everybody?
in on. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Let me step back in. Okay, big shot. Swimming through the riptides from the cliff, but I got
Love on the twip side.
moves of the day, no rules, just play.
Go against me and you'll be losing today.
Moves on the bean, all I do is
Filet.
Beast need a feast, about to go and got mistake. Lyrics on high me,
Might go and cop a
case. Going with no trace,
Go get the caution tape. Ah!
I got sauce in my veins, no flaws in my game.
Deep sea thoughts get lost in my brain.
I done broke up out the cage. Yeah,
I'm the lion unchained. Yeah.
I am the answer.
I am the mancer, not for the banter. I am like Sanders, Dion or Barry. You do not scare me. I am the answer. I am the mancer, not for the banter. I am like Sanders, Dion or Barry. You do not scare me.
They never knew I had it. I'm in the game like Madden. Born in the 80s, but my folks were never addicts. Here to wreak havoc on the industry so tragic. You think it's a joke, so now you pointing and you laughing.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to a first episode of Visionary Rhetoric with your boy Tuck. Now, I know you probably used to seeing me on the Fresh Perspective with Ray, and that's cool. We're going to keep that rocking. But this is my opportunity to be able to double back on some things that I'm very passionate about, some topics, some discussions that I want to have, and some people that I'll sit with who are more connected to me than they are to Ray, right? So this will be that, and this is the first episode. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the ride. So, first and foremost, give you a little background from Darby Township, Pennsylvania, the other side behind Walmart. If you know, you know. So don't even have to go into that. But went to Academy Park, went on to Delaware County Community College in Westchester for 2 degrees. And that's a little bit about me. I'm married, got 2 beautiful children. You probably know if you're watching this. I appreciate you for tuning in, even though you know me in real life. And I look forward to what this will look like when it's just me and also some of the guests, like I said, that are more connected to me than they are to Ray, to have conversations about the things that they do, but most importantly, getting able to show you who they are in the midst of the things that they do and how who they are aligns perfectly with what they decide to do with their lives. Look, I want to have people that come on here that are doing more than just working a job to get an income, right? I want people to come on here that have a purpose. I just had a great conversation with somebody, I guess, that we'll have on here at some point. She's an artist. I won't even say who it is, but we go way back to grade school at Benchmark, and so we'll have a wonderful dialogue. We'll even get into our experience at Benchmark, whether it be academic or whether it be socially. And we're gonna have a good time. It's a good person with good energy, and that'll be a good episode. But today we just getting started. And there's some topics. You know what? I'm gonna jump right in. I'm not gonna do a whole episode just introducing myself and what I want to do. I want to jump right into some topics, some recent stuff. So first thing I want to talk about is Caitlin Clark, the pandemonium surrounding her, right? Somebody who came into our radar probably about 2022, knocking down threes, Steph Curry-esque when we talk about the ability to perform at a high level, shooting from long range and things like that. Great player. Played for Iowa, and at Iowa, her team wasn't filled with a bunch of all-American players, but they suited her well, and so they had a lot of success, even though they didn't win a championship. They still had a lot of success with her there at that time that she was there. And of course, we know women typically do 4 years in college before they go on to the pros or go on to play professionally if it's overseas and not the WNBA. So that's a little bit about her. And what I think about her, like I said, great player, phenomenal shooter, phenomenal passer. The eye test is there, right? So my bros Key and Jigs and possibly Drop, they would probably say like, oh, Vince hate Caitlin Clark. He hate her. He hate her or whatever. But I really don't hate her as a player. I do hate the attention that she's getting because we're seeing a lot of people act like the attention she's getting is solely because she's the greatest player that ever came through, or the most exciting player that ever came through women's basketball through college and things of that nature. And that's just not the case, right? So even while she was in the NCAA and playing for Iowa, you have Juju. Juju plays out of USC. Y'all know who she is. Come on, don't act like you don't. And she's a flat out hooper, score at every level. She has a good height to her. She is going to be the face of the WNBA. That's my take. She's going to be the face. Y'all are trying to make Caitlin Clark that. I don't think she's going to be that. I think she's going to be one of them ones. I think she's going to be top 5 in her time of playing. Could potentially become top 10 all time, Caitlin Clark. If she shoots at the same clip that she shot while she was in college, she will become at least a top 10, possibly even more. I'm not opposed to that. And she may get into the realm of conversation where you say, I won't even argue with you if you say that she's your GOAT, right? She may get there. This is year 1 for her. Like Diana Taurasi was saying, and y'all said it was hate. Like any of the players that might have said that she was going to have some time to adjust, and y'all said it was hate. That's what's happening. That's what we're seeing. She just had a 30-point game. She's had a few 20-point games because she can get the ball in the bucket. That's undeniable. Nobody, whether you like her or dislike her, and there's no reason to personally like or dislike this person. You don't know her. She don't know you. She's not worried about you. From a standpoint of she just doesn't know you at all. You're not on her radar. So I'm not on her radar. Even me talking to right now. If this so happens to get past her, hopefully she can see that there is no hate because I don't know who she is. I don't know her personally. I don't have any hate towards her. Her game, you can't hate on her game because she can play. Has she been the most efficient? No, but what rookie is efficient? That's called maturity. You don't become a pro in college. You become a pro in the pros. That's the reality of this whole matter. And that's the whole other thing that I'll talk about in a second. But what I will say is my issue is with the people who support her and who haven't watched women's basketball until she came on the scene. She's exciting to you to the point where you want to pay attention to women's basketball. But to put that on everybody and say she's the reason why you're watching women's basketball when many of us have watched it on and off throughout the years, maybe not as avidly as men's basketball, but some of that is wrapped in cultural significance, right? We put more significance on men in sports. Typically, when we look at the big in America, the big sports, when we talk about basketball, football, and baseball, those are the big American sports. We typically put more focus on men in sports because it's associated with what we as a society agree that manhood is in a nutshell. That's working hard, competing strong, and that is dominating. Those are all masculine traits that we say that men should have and possess. That's why men who don't play sports usually get overlooked unless they become dominant in a business sense or a scientific sense or something like that. I've seen, like a Elon Musk. I know he's not from America, but looking at an Elon Musk, if he wasn't as smart and wealthy, as he is, he probably wouldn't be a popular person because look at him. He doesn't look like what we would say is a manly man. But because he's wealthy, and that's also a tenet of manhood in this nation, and because he's smart, that's another tenet of manhood. He's seen as a manly man because he can just, he can buy this, he can buy that, he can have control of this, and we see it with X, formerly known as Twitter. Um, you know, he's able to do those things, so he's looked at as manly. And so when we look at sports, that's the reason. That's part of the reason I would say. And so then we have statements like, "Oh, women's basketball is so boring. Oh my goodness, their skill level is so low. They miss layups." I've heard that so many times now. Because now you can't say they're not competing because when you watch it, you see that they're competing at just as tough as men compete. Not that that's a barometer for women, but from a standpoint of the psychology of our society, they're competing at the same level relative to the competition in front of them. That's all they can do. So you can't compare the two apples and oranges in the sense of men, women. But then we get into now, oh, they missed too many layups. Well, I watch NCAA men's and I see layups being missed. I watch the NBA, I see layups being missed, travels. In fact, some of the rules, and some of y'all might agree, have been bent as such that what would have been a travel back in the day is no longer a travel, right? So when we look at that, we see that rules have changed. And things have become more loose and lax in certain areas, right? You got flopping. People complain about that because in the 90s, you get punched in the face, you might not get a foul call, right? And people thought that was basketball. And people still say, oh, yeah, it's not as tough as the 90s. But, dude, we're playing basketball. We're not supposed to be like clotheslining each other, decking each other, undercutting each other, whatever it is. We ain't supposed to be low bridging each other, all that kind of stuff. We're not supposed to be doing that. And if you want to do that, go play football, right? And a lot of people who I see talk about it and say that basketball is so soft compared to what it used to be, they football players. And the reality is some of the dudes who y'all say were the toughest dudes were not even the best players in the game. They was just basically fouling. And because it wasn't considered that then and they allowed it to play out the way it played out, until they decided Jordan was going to be the face of the league. And they started shifting the rules a little bit in his favor. And then as time went on, it became just the way star players were being officiated. And it wasn't just Michael Jordan because he was out of the league. So then it started to become a player-centered league. And they started to say, well, whoever the star is on those teams, you got to protect them. Until we get to Iverson, they let Iverson get just abused, and he still did his thing. 4 scoring champs, MVP, dragged the team to the. And I don't want to hear this thing about Iverson that his team wasn't that bad because so and so had a 6-man and and he had Mutombo at the end of his career and whatever it is. Y'all kill me with that. Now all of a sudden we have a revisionist history of like, oh no, his team was actually really a good team. So that whole narrative about him like taking a team that really wouldn't have been, because if you take him off the team, it's likely that the players that you named, like the ones that got the accolades, wouldn't have gotten the accolades, right? So they wouldn't have got the accolades, and then the players that you're saying that were so good because they have an all-time history of being good, they would not have been as effective if they weren't on the same team as Allen Iverson. So let's give it up to him, man. If you're from the Philly area, I don't want to hear none of that nonsense about how his team was actually good and he should have actually been able to do more with that team and all that kind of stuff. I heard somebody say that and I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. You can call me whatever you want. You can say biased or whatever, but I'm not revising history. The next thing I want to talk about is Bronny and nepotism. Right? And so the thing I want to kind of talk about is how everybody's up in the uproar. He wouldn't have gotten a shot if his dad wasn't who he was. And my answer to that, and this is going to be very, very concise, is so what? So what? You've worked for people. Chances are, if you're watching this video, you've worked for people who are related to people who made the decisions about who got certain positions and promotions, right? They're related to those people. They get elevated, promoted. You've been working your tail off to get to that position. But because they know so-and-so, they're related to so-and-so. So-and-so was so-and-so's best friend. They get the position. Now, they're not going to tell you that. They're going to be able to explain, because they're savvy. They're going to be able to explain why that person got the promotion. They're going to say, yeah, well, this person has this skills. They showed this and that and that. And I just think that they would fit best in that role. Right? So you've had that happen in your lifetime. You've also worked for boneheads. You might not have been able to know that they knew somebody, that they were connected, related, whatever, to somebody that was connected to whoever was making the decisions. But you knew they were boneheads, right? You knew they were boneheads. Nothing they said to you made sense. And they were in that position. But what would you say in your mind? Because most of y'all have the thing of like, oh, no need to talk about it. Just work harder. Just work harder. I seen the thing that says shut up and work harder. Nobody cares. Work harder. That's crazy. The reason why people do that and take advantage of you, over jump you when it comes to promotions and things that you have earned, is because of the idea that if I don't give it to you, you should automatically just think it's because you didn't do something. and it's on you. It's not because I connected or I was told. So even if they're not connected to the person who's directly supervising that position, they are told by somebody. So it could be somebody on the board of that organization that puts somebody. I know that happens for sure. There's a board, and then there's somebody who's related to somebody who's on that board. They go over to the people and say, "Hey, my nephew is going to be applying to that job. Make sure they get it." And now that person's on the job. And now I know what you're thinking. That's unethical. They would never do that. That's why there's HR. All I'm gonna say is, what Jay-Z say? Okay. That's all I'm gonna say. And no, I'm not quoting Jay-Z because I think he's a good guy. I don't know that dude. So I don't want y'all to come to my post talking about some, or come to my my YouTube video, or if you're listening audibly and commenting on the on social media, like that didn't age well. He quoted Jay-Z. I'm just quoting the okay part from the story of OJ. You know, I'm not black, I'm OJ. Okay. Like that. That's all. I'm just quoting that. That's all. I'm not saying Jay-Z's a good dude, somebody to admire, to be, or whatever, because I don't think that, because I don't know that. Um anyway, we talk about Bronny, right? And we say, everybody said he need to go back to college. He didn't even do good in college. One, my man had a major heart situation in the fall before the season started. He didn't start right away. I think he started in the new year sometime. He's recovering from that. He's in college. College is different. If you played college ball at any level, whether it's JUCO through Division One, if you played it at any level, you know college is different. There's a bunch of people on your team that are good. It's not always cut and dry where you can go out and be like, I'm just him and I'm the one that's going to drop 30 points a night. It's not going to happen. For the most part, when you're on a team like that, I think about, I'm from Delco, told you I'm from Township, Derby Township. Some people know when you say Township, you know, if you know, you know. But I'm from Township. And the other side, I know Mud City to the old heads, Ashland sides to the people that's like my age. So y'all know, but I claim Township. I don't say I'm from Glenold. I don't say I'm from Briarcliff or nothing like that. I'm from Derby Township. That's where I'm from. That's the municipality I was in. So I say that to say, I growing up in the area and playing at Academy Park, we played against Chester. Chester, when I was coming through and before, was stacked. Probably like a 9-man rotation, 5 consistently, right? Division One caliber players. And when I say that, I mean you can be Division One caliber in the athletic department, but academically, if you're not there, sometimes it's hard to make it to the next level. So you'll have players that was Division One caliber, but might not have been able to go Division One because of the academic side of things, and it's not their fault. I'm not even blaming that on them. That's a whole nother conversation for another time. But not unlike Philadelphia's quality of education and the issue of that in the city. The city of Chester is no different. Even where I come from, in some regard, I think it's getting better. I think the people in place now, in leadership, I said it on the episode before. I'm hopeful that it'll climb and skyrocket at some point where we won't have the negative narrative surrounding my home school district. But to go back to Chester, when you got, and I said 9-man rotation, I say really like a 7-man rotation and 2 possibles, like young guys that can get into the rotation sometimes in low stress situations, because there's just some maturity that has to happen. And that's just me talking in general about sports. You know, sometimes the young guys have talent, but they don't have the skills and the maturity to be in certain situations. But pound for pound, they can go with anybody. And so I say that to say, Chester was stacked. So if you think one player was going to average, no, to average 30 points in a season, means you're up and around 30, up and above 30, uh, like for most of the season. You're close to 30, and there's nights where you might get 40. That's not going to happen on a stacked team. Now, if you take one of them players from Chester, like we did have Dev, my bro Dev, that I do talk about on the Fresh Perspective podcast a little bit, when we talk about some of the movies, the silly movies that we used to watch when he would come over for the weekend and stuff like that when we was kids. Like if Dev would have stayed at Academy Park, I have no doubt he might have averaged 30 points. He would have been at the top of the scoring leaders um, that whole time, that 4 years he played varsity, right? But because he went to Chester and it's stacked, you got to spread the wealth because you got to keep everybody motivated. So you got to run a balanced offense. And it's the same thing with college. College, there's not going to be players averaging, for the most part, unless it's a school that just centers around having one-star player, which doesn't happen in those big schools. You always you're recruiting to have multiple people. So for the most part, you're going to be a little more balanced across the board where everybody's kind of averaging around the same. And then every game, a player might go above and beyond 25, 30. Somebody might get hot and get 40. But that's not every night because you got to run a balanced offense that's going to include all of your players who have great skills and talents that you want to be highlighted because ultimately you're trying to get those top 5, top 7 players. You're trying to put them in position to get drafted in the NBA or to get to be able to have the opportunity to go play overseas. So I say that to say I don't judge Bronny for his showing last year because of two things. One, he's on a team where there's other players that are good and some even considered better than him. So you acknowledge that player might be better than Bronny. Then why would you think that he should be averaging more than Bronny? Because nobody who says like they support Bronny, and when I say support, I mean support him and the idea of him being in the NBA. Nobody's saying that he was the best player in college. We're just saying that he does have some of the tangible and intangible things to be ready to get in the NBA. Now, the difference between getting into the NBA and being highly successful in the NBA is cultivation, is hard work, training, is learning that game. Coach Saunders at Delaware County Community College, we was talking, we rap all the time. Some of his business shop, about getting students in and situated with classes and things like that, and program. Some of it is just basketball talk because he grew up playing basketball and he played at a high level and is very knowledgeable. Highly respect him. That's my bro Taylor's big bro. Um, who another dude that flat out play. Taylor can flat out play. Him and my brother together on the same team. Man, I wish they would have had like 2 or 3 years to be able to do that. Because that was special. You know what I mean? They both could score whenever they felt like it. And they just was a hassle. Taylor's like lanky, long arms, gonna make it difficult for you to get a shot off, gonna make it difficult for you to pass off. My brother was just a defensive savant. And again, he could shoot, he could rebound, out rebound bigs, he could do a lot of different things. And both of them together, man, it was dangerous. If they would have had a real like run together, I don't know, that would have been pretty special. That'd have been a pretty special run because they played well together in AAU too, and Soot played with them. Imagine, man, I can go on and on about that. I might have to have them on the show because I can imagine him, Taylor, my brother Jordan, and Soot on the same team in high school for like 3 years. And you give them just like the bigs, they ain't even got to be 6'10", 7 foot. They could be undersized athletic bigs because then you got more spacing. You can run, you could do this, you could do that. Anyway, back to my point. I'm good with Bronny getting into the league, and I'm even good that people think it's all because of who his dad is and the possibility of Bron going to the team that his son goes on because he wants to play with him ultimately. That's one of his goals. So I'm okay with it because, listen, if other people get to use nepotism on different levels and in different industries, and you see people, even if it's not nepotism in the sense of like related to, you see people that just get positions, coaching jobs and stuff, and they just keep getting them, and they haven't done really that great. You know what I mean? They haven't really proven that they deserve to continue to get these jobs, but they keep getting them because of whatever reason. Somebody likes them, they put them in position. If the league likes them, they get vouched for and all that kind of stuff. And then you see people who you think could be a great head coach don't even get a shot. Or if they do, it's all this questioning. Why they get in that position? Why they getting a shot? Some people aren't questionable. And what I'm saying is not related to race because look at Doc Rivers. After the Celtics, Doc Rivers was okay. Would I call him a great coach? I don't know. I don't think no. I'm gonna keep it 100. No, I wouldn't call Doc Rivers a great coach. A good coach, yeah, but for him to just he got a lot of grace just because he won that championship with the Celtics. After that, I mean, while he may have, had some success, but again, moral victories are for minor league coaches. They ain't for big stage coaches, right? So, after the Celtics, yeah, he had a little bit of success with the Magic before the Celtics. But I really don't think, I wouldn't put him in great coach. I say he's a good coach, but not really a great coach. And so for him to keep getting chance after chance after chance, to me, is like, instead of giving him chance after chance and he's not getting you beyond a certain point anymore, why not go with a new person? You know what I mean? Pat Riley was new at one point with the Lakers, right? And I hear murmurings that JJ Redick might get a position or a job. And so there's no reason to say JJ Redick should get it outside of him being a top tier college player and a very, very good role player in the NBA. And just listening to him commentating things like that, he seems to have a good handle of the game and knowledge of the game. And so if that's enough for them to say, hey, let's give him a job, and people are saying like that the Lakers feel like he's Pat Riley-esque, he has a Pat Riley feel to him in the sense of, yeah, he doesn't have proven record as a coach, but because he's played, because he has a sound knowledge of the game, and then leaning on like he'll have rapport with the players off the bat because he was a player, so he'll be looked at as like, oh, you actually played the game, so like we can really respect you. As many of the coaches in the NBA do come from that cloth, and it's a very close knit fraternity of players. So some people might say, yeah, give him a shot. I'm cool with it because we keep giving Doc Rivers jobs. We keep giving Doc. Look what they did with the Bucks. They took the coach out, and I forget his name. They got rid of him. He had a winning record when they got rid of him. Doc Rivers gets in there, and it just falls apart. Now, some of it's due to injury, but for whatever reason, they felt like, let's move on from this coach that got a winning record. Let's bring Doc Rivers in. But there's no proof that Doc Rivers is going to take them where they need to take them. So, I don't know. But like I said, we see it all the time. I don't understand why people have such a thing against the James family. Like, we watch Bron be, well, from what we can see, again, I don't know these people, right? So if things come out about these people, don't be like, well, Levi, you was all vouching for. I don't know these people. And we got to start treating these athletes and celebrities like that. Like, we don't know them. We don't know what they get into. We don't know none of that. So from what we see, he was a good father, husband, great basketball player, a philanthropist. The stuff he did in Akron, I'm not sure familiar with every city that he's played in. I think he's contributed to in a major way. At the very least, him being his presence there increases the economy. We know that because when he left, that was one of the big things. Is like you put a hole in the Cleveland economy and that surrounding area's economy because you're no longer here. And now we're back to not being a destination for anybody to come spend time and do things. I know that was one of the complaints, but at the very least, we've watched LeBron be consistently good in life as a human. No matter what you believe about his stances on things and some of the questions things he might have said, questionable things he may have said, whatever you believe about that, we watched him be consistently good as a human for the most part, from what we know. And we watched him be exceptionally great. Like, above and beyond. Like, if you say he's the GOAT, I know y'all gonna say, no, Michael Jordan is the clear GOAT and it's not close. That's dishonest. That's dishonest. Mike can be your GOAT. But it's really not anything you can argue with somebody based on stats, based on eye test, based on winning, based on anything. You can't argue with anybody. We can't go tit for tat on rings. We can't. Rings are a team accomplishment no matter how you shake it. It's a team accomplishment, period. There's no other way around it. Y'all could say, well, Mike played a big part. Pippen played a big part. Scoring the most points doesn't mean you played the most important role in any given game. Sometimes the defensive effort is the most important role of a certain game, and is the uh, turning point of a series when somebody locks in on defense, right? So you can't argue that. So what? He made a good name for himself, and his son gets to use that name to get to the next level. Now he got to prove himself when he get there. That's the thing y'all not really thinking about in this scenario. Just because he gets there doesn't mean he gets to stay there. The name will get you in the room, but your work ethic, Bronny, your willingness to step outside of yourself and make yourself and be comfortable being uncomfortable is going to keep you there. We can get you there all day, every day. Parents can make a good name for your family, get you to where you need to get to, but ultimately your character is going to keep you there. And the way he talks, I'm pretty sure he'll have a decent career. Will he end up being top 10? Will he end up being top 50? Probably not. Could he be top 100? I don't know. Maybe. Imagine nitpicking. Oh, he's not even top 100. Do you understand how many people play in the NBA, in the history of the NBA? If he was top 500, he would be in good company. So, could he have a decent career? I think so. I saw he was a dude White from the Boston Celtics. He mentioned Drew Holiday, and he mentioned another player that was, kind of teetering on like great role players side. Those guys are really great role players, but they're not superstars, right? They're not guys that are going to be. Drew Holiday was an all-star at one point, but the two other guys he mentioned, like White and I forget who the other guy was, who he said he was kind of looking at as to somebody he can kind of shape his game after, or kind of look to make an impact on games in that way. Um, those are guys he mentioned. So he's thinking right. He's not. He could have been delusional and been like, "Yeah, I'm gonna be just as great as my. I'm gonna be better than my dad. I'm chasing my dad." That's delusional. Your dad is top two players of all time, and it's close if you want to put him at two. Like again, I'm not arguing with y'all over that, man. Y'all just be talking. Y'all watch one too many slow motion highlight reel of Michael Jordan. That's y'all problem. That's y'all problem. Y'all watch too many of them slow motion highlight reels and don't look at the full picture. And y'all only started the 90s. Y'all only started the 90s when he started winning. Don't nobody want to talk about the 80s when he was balling individually, but his team wasn't that great. He wasn't winning. Everybody just skip over the whole first part of his career and go right to the 90s. Funny thing is, I like those little videos the boy be doing. He be showing how like whack the 90s was, and when I say that, I'm not saying it was 100% whack. Like nobody was good. What I'm saying is showing the parity between like the people at Michael Jordan's level, or if you want to, I'm sorry to y'all Michael Jordan. I gotta be respectful, especially for you Michael Jordan fans. So not at Michael Jordan, because Michael Jordan was in a league of his own. He was in a different stratosphere, as people like to say. But the people who were at the top tier of the NBA before you get to Michael Jordan's level, King Jordan for y'all, his airness. And I'm a Jordan fan. I grew up watching them slow motion highlights just like you. I did it too. Jordan, listen, if you say Jordan the GOAT, I'm not arguing with you no more. I used to argue it just because it was fun to see y'all get all in a tizzy and be like, nah, LeBron the GOAT, LeBron the GOAT, LeBron the GOAT, and then how hype y'all get, and how y'all think y'all know what y'all talking about over everybody else. I ain't arguing with y'all no more. If you think Jordan the GOAT, good for you. I think LeBron the GOAT, but I'm not arguing with you. I watched the slow motion highlights for both of them. You be enamored. You so enamored with it. You get so you would think Michael Jordan had you on payroll, or he was your pop or something. You know what I mean? You would think he was your dad and somebody was disrespecting your pop, and you jump in the. It's all right, whatever. Go ahead. But anyway, I'm good with to say all that. I say I'm good with Bronny getting in the room because of the name his dad made. Because that's what America is all about. America is all about making a name for yourself and your family to get opportunities to continue to build that legacy. So honestly, I'm good with it. All he got to do is get in the room based on the name. But to stay in the room, like I said, is going to be his character, his work ethic, the evolution of his game, him finding his niche, what he does well to keep him on the court. It's like Pat Bev. Pat Bev said it. He said, I mean, we know it now. Like back in high school, Pat Bev was a dog on the offensive side. But when he got to the league, he realized the way I'm going to stay in the league and keep getting these contracts is if I commit to defense. Right? So honestly, I think, you know, I would rather be Pat Bev than Brandon Jennings. Y'all not gonna like that one. And I was a Brandon Jennings fan. Lefty. Brandon Jennings was a dog. Brandon Jennings was a dog. But he couldn't stay in the league. Couldn't stay in the league. That's a reality. Pat Bev, he keep getting contracts. People want him on there, even if it is for the locker room. You know what I'm saying? He could be a troll sometimes, but even if it is in the locker room, people want him on their team. You wanna know why? Because he a dog when it comes to he gonna do everything he telling them young dudes they need to do. Pat Bev doing it. Pat Bev doing it. He doing it tenfold. Everything they took, like everything he gonna tell them to do. Oh, you need to sharpen up on your defense. You need to, be more communicative. You need to whatever. He doing it himself. He not just telling them. He's showing them. So you want a guy like that, and you want him in your locker room, even if he is a little bit of a troll on the offensive side. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I'm looking at Brandon Jennings' career. I mean, he had a decent career. I ain't mad at him. 2009, 2010, he was out the league by 2018. That was his last season back in Milwaukee. So he did what's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11? Is that 11 years? 11 years in the league. So I take it back. Let's edit that. I take it back. Brandon Jennings had a long enough career. You spent a decade in the A. You definitely, and he did. I think he went overseas. He didn't do college. He went overseas. Um, he didn't do college. He went out of high school. He went overseas, which was different. You know what I mean? Because they had that. You couldn't do out of high school when he came through. So he decided to go overseas and play pro instead of going to college, which was an interesting choice. It might have worked out because he kind of came in and kind of hit the ground running. Pat Bev, 12 years in. 12 years in. And I mean, as of right now, I don't see anything slowing down as far as him getting the contract. Now, if you look at his averages, I think Brandon Jennings probably averaged more than him consistently. But that's the thing. Brandon Jennings was his job, was the score and all that. Right? Yeah, I mean, towards the end though, Brandon Jennings was regular. But what else was he providing? That's the thing. So my whole point of that is I'm cool with Bronny getting in because of his pop. Now, if he start getting like, if he get into the realm of getting like 7th to 8th contract, but he ain't really showing us nothing, then it becomes questionable because it's like, all right, he's not giving you anything consistently. So now you're just keeping him around as like a respect to his pop, right? But we got to see that first. My whole philosophy is you don't develop as a pro in college. I saw this thing. I forget who said it, but you might after I say what I say. It was a team that had 5th-year COVID players, the players that got the extra year. This team was so polished. They were such great college basketball players. They were in the tournament too, I think. I think I might be talking about Purdue. Um, and somebody said, and I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but the person was talking about it. He said, listen, look at this, because he was talking about UNC. I want to say it was Purdue. And he said, look at this team. He said, this team is a better college team than UNC. These players are better college players than UNC's players. But we can almost guarantee you that a lot of these players on this team are not going to either make it to the NBA, or if they do, they're not going to have long careers. They'll be out. They'll be in and out pretty quick because they're not going to translate. They've learned the college game. They've learned the system they're in, and they're phenomenal college players. They're second to none on this level. But these players over here, while they're not great on this level, and they can get beat with all the talent that they have on their team, they're going to produce more pros and more long-standing pros than this team over here. That sounds crazy. You would think the best team, the better team in the college level is going to produce the pros because the better team should equate to the better players. But when we go pound for pound, it turns into something different. When we go translate the pro, it turns into something totally different. And so I love that because I don't think even those players that will make it pro from like a USC, Kentucky, or whatever, they still got to develop. But they usually come in far more developed and ready to take on the pro game than players that come from other schools that aren't really known for producing pros. Kentucky's one of them. Calipari, he listen, he produced them guards. You know that. He produced players in general. But guards, he really like we got one, Maxey. Sixers don't mess that up. You already fumbled the bag with Simmons and Fultz, right? Well, I don't know if Simmons is going to get back into it consistently. Fultz seems like he's finding his way in Orlando. I wish him nothing but the best. I don't have no issue with Fultz, but don't fumble the bag with Maxey. Don't put him in no deal and package because teams is going to try it. They're going to try it. They're going to say, "Oh, you want this player? We'll give you. You gotta put Maxey." They tried to do it with We was almost we was almost about to give up Maxey, or I don't know if he's about to give up Maxey, but they was talking about Maxey for Lillard. I'm glad we didn't do that. For a minute there, I'm like, I really want to get Lillard, but I watched him in Milwaukee. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if he adds enough to the team, you know, to say let's give up a player like a Maxey. Now they was like, yo, we'll take Tobias Harris. Yeah, I know some of y'all be going to bat for Tobias Harris, man. And he's a bona fide pro. But he can't be in your like top. He can't be part of your top 3 scoring options to be a winning team, like a championship contending team. Can he score? Yeah. Is he consistent? He's consistent, yes. So he can score and he's consistent. But what we don't see, so if we look at, again, the same way the same way I saw people defending him and saying that he belonged there and that he's better than the Sixers fans treat him, they use stats. They say, well, he averages 18 points. He averages this many assists and rebounds and da-da-da-da. But then when we say why we think Bron is the GOAT, because of his consistency at a high, like, if he's averaging 17.8 points a game, talking about Tobias Harris, and Bron's averaging 27 on a career, like, how can we not use stats to prove Bron is the GOAT, but we can use stats to prove that Tobias Harris is a bona fide pro and deserves respect and honor while on the Sixers, even though he hasn't helped us get over the edge, and he's making money at the same level as those top tier guys because he listen. I'm not mad. Get your money, black man. What Childish Gambino, Donald Glover say? He said, "Get your money, black man. Get your money." Yeah, get your money, man. I ain't mad at that. I ain't mad at that at all. That's not the issue. The issue is we spent that money on him because we had to, based on where we were and the penalties we're going to get in the cap realm. But then we so that he's taking up that space of a player like a Jimmy Butler, even though Jimmy Butler comes alive more so in the playoffs. But like he's taking up a place of like a player like a Paul George or even a Kawhi Leonard. Like the money he's making is at that level. And I use 2 dudes that sometimes they're not available, and that's your best ability is availability. And you know, I get it, but anyway, that's that on Bronny. I circle back to put some more respect on Brandon in his name, just to say like while his career was 11 years and it wasn't like as illustrious as his high school career, um, he did his thing. So what I will say is I don't think after a certain point in his time in the NBA that people were um, eager to give him contracts because he didn't really play defense like that. He was more of an offensive juggernaut for the size that he was at. And you know, a lot of people I think were probably hesitant to give him because it's like, hey, he could come in and give us major minutes with scoring, but he might be a liability defensively. Pat Bev is going to give you all the hustle, all the defense, and occasionally he's going to go off for some points. So he gives you a little more. He gives you the morale. He's boosting. He knows who he is. That's another episode I would talk about knowing who you are and what you're capable of and what you bring to any given table. We always talk about tables when there's men and women, but just tables in general. What do you bring to the table? And do that 150% full tilt, all gas, no brakes. Do that. Bring that. And that's what Pat Bev does. That's why Pat Bev will get at least one more contract, but he might get a couple more because he is going to do the things that are necessary. I know he just had some little trouble at the end there with the Pacers and stuff like that with some fans. So we'll see how that plays out. I know he got in trouble for that, and I think he's suspended in the beginning of the next season. But we'll see. You know, I don't know if this will be his last contract that he's playing on currently, or if he'll get another one, right? So we'll see. But it's the same thing with Draymond. Like you excuse like the stuff, like yeah, a lot of what Draymond's doing is bonehead. But you excuse it because of what he brings to the table, even though he's not as physically able as he was. And I'm saying that as a person who's way out of shape, and he's in way more shape than me. So I'm not even saying that from a standpoint of like I'm fit or whatever. I know where I'm at and need to work to get myself back in good shape. These dudes are the top of the top though. So I'm not even comparing myself to them, but I wanted to be clear. I'm not coming at him in a way of thinking that like I had some moral high ground, like I'm in shape or something like that. I'm not even relatively in shape or what I could possibly be at 30, almost 35 years old. But again, Draymond ain't what he was physically as far as athletically say 5 years ago. So, but what he brings is that vocal leader. He gonna step to whoever about his guys. You want that, right? You want guys like that on your team, and he's a part of that dynasty. So it's gonna be a real hard decision or day unless they let him just make the decision to retire. It's going to be a hard day for them if they got to move on from him, and it has to be a business call. He's brought too much to that organization. So, type of guys that you keep giving contracts to, you might lower the amount, but you're going to keep bringing them back as long as they want to because you just have such an honor and respect and affinity for a guy like that in your organization. When I'm thinking about the Warriors, and until they decide, it'll keep going, and I'm sure that they're getting to that place where it's like, all right, we had our run. We did excellent. We in the history books because they are. Um, and so Bronny good on my book. I got Diddy on here. But all I'm gonna say about that is it was about time. That's it. It's about time. And the fact that he sat up there, and I'm gonna be real brief with it because I don't want to spend too much energy on him. The fact that he sat up there and said that all would come out in due time and they were defaming his character and all that. And then he got up after he got exposed as far as having a video released. And he goes, I'm sorry. I was in ground zero. Or what do you say? I was rock bottom. I was at rock bottom and all that good stuff that he said that if you're not really paying attention, you'll get like caught up in it. But in reality, you realize what it was. He was sorry that he got caught because he was telling us just days before that they was defaming his character and the truth will come out in his favor. That's what he meant. It'll come out in my favor. And you'll see that I'm not who they say I am. Now, and this is, like I said, I'm not going to stay on this topic much after this. I say this. Now I heard somebody say there's credence to all the other allegations now. I know that's not how the legal system works, but the court of public opinion, there's credence to all the other allegations when that comes out to be true after you denied it. So if you deny that, you vehemently, that joint got me in a chokehold. But yeah, you know what I'm saying. You denied that adamantly. That's a better one. You were adamant about the fact that you didn't do those things, that you're not the person being described, and that in due time the truth will come out and these people are just defaming my character. You were adamant about that. Then we get the video footage. And for you to act that way in that video, that's not the first time, and that wasn't the last time. That's just my analysis of what I saw. I said on the last episode, Fresh Perspective. I think it was episode 6 at this point. It's the one that's convos towards solidarity, where we talk about colorism and all that good stuff. And it's not, I guess it's not good. That was a horrible thing to say. But anyway, when we talk about colorism on that episode, that pops up, and I say, we all knew that Diddy was a psycho and a sociopath. Like, we knew that from making the band. And I'm sure people in the industry knew, right? People around him knew. The crazy part is people like this only are able to be the way they are because of the fact that nobody says anything to them, because everybody around them is either one, beholden to them and their resources. So they're getting paid, they're getting access to, opportunities, they're getting things, whatever it is. And so they feel like they can't say anything. Two, the people around them have done the same or worse or other things that are either embarrassing or have legal implications that he has knowledge and record of. So they stay quiet because they don't want to get exposed. And so they allow things to happen, to be perpetuated, because they don't want to get exposed. And so that's why for me, I'm like, yo, I ain't trying to be in a position where I can't speak up against injustice, where I can't speak up against abuse or anything like that. So what I'll say to end that and cap that off, because I don't want to go too far into that. We don't necessarily. I don't take that apology at face value at all, because a lot of the stuff he said was almost like an excuse for what he did. You know what I'm saying? Being in the bad space, rock bottomness, and da 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 da. And then he tried to go into the I'm disgusted at that video. That was all like like Kendrick called Drake a master manipulator. That's all that was. Through the sociopathic. You see it. Everything that he does when it comes to people is all about what he can get from them and what he can, where he can go as a result of them. They're all a tool to him. That's it. Either it's a tool for his ego, or it's a tool for his financial increase, or it's a tool for his power or pleasure. That's it. That's all Diddy care about. When you hear him talking, you just see it. It oozes out of him. Dude is like, if what's it? Dude, I'm not even gonna go into that. All I'm gonna say is we saw this. We already saw it. You ever see the video of him where he can't? I think it was on MTV. It might have been making the band, or it could have been on some type of MTV thing. It could have been anything, but he's on the phone and he's I guess closing out a deal, closes it out, and he like slams the phone. I got to get what I want. I get what I want. Does that sound like somebody that? Come on. Next thing. In the last episode, when we talk about colorism and all that, I talk about how you can't, a slave owner, we going back now, can't be in a romantic relationship with the slave that he owns, or a slave, period. Anyone who's, any person in the slave category, nobody who is not a slave can be in a romantic relationship with them. I don't believe so, because there's a power dynamic that that person, that slave who's not a person in that society, can't refuse you. Therefore, there's no choice. Even if they felt like they were romantically attracted to you and engaged with you, they aren't. So that's the reality of that. Is they refuse? So they can't refuse you. There's a power dynamic. They're slaves. They're property. You cannot be in a relationship with somebody or with cattle. You can't. No more than a person, like I said in the episode. So the person I was talking about is Thomas Jefferson. So there's a story with him and Sally Hemings. First of all, Sally Hemings came to his plantation when she was a toddler. Let's talk about that. And she's the result. She comes down from the lineage of assault, SA, from a owner, master to their slave, which is her mom, and who had her. Then she ends up at Thomas Jefferson's plantation. A series of events happen, and time goes by. Then at some point they become, and hear what I'm saying. So like this is the thing. I was watching a documentary on it, and once they got to like this, she was in France, where Thomas Jefferson went off to after he lost his wife, which was her half sister. That's why I said her mom, assaulted by a slave owner, creates her. She has a half sister who gets married to Thomas Jefferson, ends up at the plantation with them, is their servant, is their slave at the plantation. And then they end up in France after her half sister dies. And she didn't even go at first. It was like her siblings went, and then eventually she ends up over there. So when you get there, it gets complicated because in France, apparently there was no, like, slavery was illegal. So there wasn't, like, she was technically free in France, but black people were still part of the servant class of that country. So I even slipped up right there when I said they got involved. I almost said they got involved, and that's not true. You can't. They didn't. They didn't get involved because Thomas Jefferson still had jurisdiction over her, even though she wasn't allowed to be a slave there. So we can mince words, we whatever. But it's interesting, and I'm not going to stay on it too long. It's interesting what, because I'm going to segue this right into the last point. It's interesting that when the white historians were talking about it, they were talking about it from a standpoint of like, yeah, this is a romantic relationship. When it was like one black woman that came up on the screen and she was like, no, that's not how that is. And I said, right on. That's true. There's no scenario where someone who you look at as cattle, even if you wrote the Declaration of Independence, even if you wrote, or should I say the Constitution, I'm sorry, the Constitution and all that good stuff, and you had maybe an inkling of, oh, this is not right inside of you, there's no way that you carry out, if you really had that as an ethic, that people shouldn't be slaves and that race definitely shouldn't dictate that. Like before, it was indentured servitude. So when people try to say, well, other people were slaves too, indentured servitude and the transatlantic slave trade are two different energies. Like indentured servitude is you owe me something, you're going to work this off. Once you work this off, you can be free. You've paid your debt. It's like going to jail for a crime. Once you pay your, and we know with that in our system, sometimes depending on what that crime is, you'll be paying for the rest of your life, even if you're not behind bars. But once you pay your debt, you're free in the sense of you're fully autonomous. Transatlantic slave trade was never, and there was never an intention for African slaves or their following generations. So I would be a part of that. Anyone who's of African descent would be a part of that, to be free. We were supposed to be in perpetual slavery through every generation. There was no idea of me being free. There was no idea of my children being free. It was that we were basically cattle, chattel slavery. We were cattle and we were to be property. We were never supposed to have autonomy. We were never supposed to have rights. We were never supposed to have privileges or anything like that. And so when we look at that, we have to be honest with ourselves and, you know, and really look at that way. There's no way that a slave master can have a romantic relationship with one of their slaves. It's not. It's just it's the worst kind of fraternization. It's a gruesome, it's a morbid fraternization. That's what it is. Because there's no choice. There's no choice there. And so moving right along, the last thing I want to talk about that I mentioned in that episode is the Black Panther Party, Fred Hampton, and the Rainbow Coalition, which was meant to bring poor or working class whites and poor working class Latinos and blacks together under the guise of the fact that we have very similar struggles and that the government and the elites that run the country are treating us all horribly. So if we form together and get this thing together, then we can make some progress and we can all live lives full with enjoyable experiences, safe living quarters, gainful employment, land, and things like that. So his whole idea was that we got to stop letting them divide us along the color line because that's only working in their favor. And so that's to kind of break that down a little bit more. So he went to, like I said, poor and working class, white, black, and Latinos about unifying. That would have truly messed the elites up. And this is why they got rid of him. This is why they got rid of him. Was it at the hand of our own? Yeah. But they still were the ones that plotted and planned, no different than they did with our other leaders, like I mentioned. So again, first episode, Visionary Rhetoric. I hope y'all will be willing to join me for the ride. Y'all might be tired of me talking after having 3 spaces where I am involved with producing, creating content. But hopefully y'all find my information enlightening, uplifting, and empowering. Um, yeah, so I hope y'all enjoy it as much as I enjoy creating it, talking about these topics. Again, I'll have people on. If you're somebody who's interested in coming on and sitting with me, please feel free to reach out to me. Um, you can reach out to me on YouTube or on social media. Just let me know what's going on. I would love to highlight you, whether it be for career, whether it be for your presence in the community, whether it be for just for the sake of just getting to know you and sitting down and chatting with different people about different things and different philosophies and things of that nature. So yeah, this is just the beginning. Can't wait to see where this goes.